First of all, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
I remember we spoke briefly at one of the events for Knives Out at like Crosby Street back when we did things in person. Uh,
That's right. Back
and
in the
it
day.
oh yeah, and it's just fun to see how people respond to it because especially that one, it's out of nowhere. It's a thing that came out of your brain, and nobody likes to pay for those anymore. So it's really heartening when you see like look how excited people are. And then, with this one, you're someone who has zero experience with franchises and sequels and people who have opinions about those. So, you know, it was really interesting to see how you approached it because it really feels like its own thing. You know, it,
Yeah.
it it clearly is made by someone who's like, I'm only gonna make this if I feel like it. And there's something about that. So like when does obviously, you start thinking about it, but when do you know you have an idea that's worth doing? Because it's not like you don't have, it's not like you have to do it. There are options.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, I like the way that you put it. I mean, it really is true. And I think that's also why I feel really lucky to be partnered up with Daniel on that, because he's on the same page. There's no world in which momentum dictates us continuing this series. Every single one, it's just okay, are we really excited about it? And do we think we can do something that feels kind of scary to us, I
Yeah.
guess,
Oh, yeah.
in the way that anything should, I think. But yeah, and so I mean, I don't know. It's a also it's a good time to ask me that because I'm in the process right now of fishing for ideas for the next one. And I mean, to me, what's genuinely exciting is the notion that this character, but also this I can't really think in terms of like franchises or
Oh,
in
yeah.
terms of, it being IP or something. To me, it's just what's an exciting new movie to make. And the notion of having this kind of solid base of this genre that I love and the vast expanse of possibilities in terms of what that can be used for, I guess. That's exciting to me, but tonally and thematically and plot wise, just how we can genuinely kind of use these movies to kind of show the scope of what the whodunit can be, which to me goes back to Agatha Christie. That's what she did
Oh,
with all her books. You look over the body of her work, it's staggering how many different things she attacked
well,
using the genre.
yeah, you have a genre that feels, if you don't pay attention, rigid. It's a whodunit. There has to be a crime. There has to be a solution.
Yeah.
But it's also the most malleable thing. Like, there's whatever is on your mind can turn into the next one. Like it's not, obviously there's other things and people put their own, spin on the work, which is fun.
Hmm.
It's not, in a way, once it comes out, it's not fully yours anymore. Whatever someone thinks,
Hmm.
sure, why not? But
Right.
the satirization that's going on in it is clearly like what was pissing you off at the time. And there's always going to be something new. It's not like,
Yeah.
it's not like the world is suddenly amazing. So it's as you fish for ideas, it's not super hard. Though I imagine it's funny when you see on the internet all the people who have ideas and you're like, no, no, no. Maybe that I won't do it, but that one's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, what helps that is the kind of starting point with Knives Out of setting it in modern day America and and it felt a little scary at first, but the notion of throwing out the window any idea of timelessness,
Yeah.
and just committing completely to these are going to be movies made of the moment, and that means that it's the moment's always new, and so there's always you're right, there's always new. There's always new stuff to draw from in terms of what we're all thinking about and or angry about.
Oh yeah. I mean, and this one especially, I think I found it more fun, even though it's
Yeah.
it's doing a similar yet different thing. But it's not hard watching. I was at TIFF, and when you see Kate Hudson show up with the basically see-through mask, you're like,
Yeah.
I know what was bumming you out when you wrote that scene. Like it's not hard to be like, okay, real life. Somebody had it around their chin when they walked by him at the store that day. It's
Yeah.
and it reflects
Yeah.
into something fun. It reflects into something that I think everyone understands and then doesn't have to like harp on. They can get back to the story, but it gives all this
Right.
other, you know, um, just accessories to it to make it feel like it's this special event as opposed to just like, oh, it's number two, which clearly is something you don't want people to be thinking when you watch it.
Yeah, completely. And I mean, I wrote this movie in 2020. I wrote it while, I and everyone else in the world was sitting at home during
Yep.
lockdown. And so, but even that was kind of like a scary decision because in that moment, the notion of taking this incredibly serious global thing that we were all going through and putting it into sort of what's supposed to be a light confection, the way these movies are, that was a little terrifying. But it also it yeah, I felt like I had a way to do it where hopefully it would be something that we would all be able to recognize and kind of um, recognize in a good way, I guess, as opposed to
Right.
a horrifying one, and then move on with the story.
Yeah, well, I think when it comes to like movies referring to the pandemic, like you don't necessarily need the like, all right, everyone's in front of their Zoom camera, it all takes place like that. Like, okay, that's
Right.
just unless you got a real good take, you're just gonna bum me out. Same with like
Oh my
Alien,
God.
the ones
Yeah.
that have a bunch of news footage. You're like, yeah, no, I watched that too. It sucked. We all thought we were gonna die. But there's something almost charming about the complete lack of like self-awareness. So like when the spring,
Right.
like you're good because you kind of had
Right.
that feeling like with the was it Jared Leto when he like came back from the mountains and was like, oh, there's a pandemic. I didn't realize. Instead of being pissed at him, you were almost charmed by like, I guess there's people like that who just don't know what's going on.
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
movie full
Yeah.
of
Yeah, exactly. That's the bread and butter of this film is they're all in my pot. It's fine. Is
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
Like we got this.
the
Meanwhile,
yeah.
no, it's there's something about I think over the years. It's not just Knives Out and Glass Onion, but even Brick Brothers Bloom, like people
Mm.
who are shitty in one way or another, but are still inherently watchable. There's something to I don't know why you have that talent, but there's something about like everyone
Yeah.
in your movies by and large. And Star Wars might be a slight exception, but like
Mm.
do bad things at times, but not like unrealistic bad things. But they're,
Right.
you
Yeah.
spend a lot of time sympathetic with them, and there's a charm.
Yeah.
They're you know what they're fleshed out in a way I don't think a lot of people spend the time on, especially with secondary
I
characters.
I mean, I appreciate that. To me, and I don't know. For me, Kylo in Star Wars was actually a good example of that.
Sure.
I mean, and for me, it's just in terms of my process, in terms of what I do, trying to, I don't know, especially when I create characters who are quote unquote unsympathetic, those are the ones most especially that I feel like it's important um, to really, on a deep level, find something in them that I recognize inside myself. And I guess that's the best way for me to do it is to always find a personal way into especially the worst characters in the movie so that what you're feeling when you feel sympathy from the text for those people is me being slightly generous to the worst parts of myself, I guess. So it makes it a little easier.
We gotta. And I think even the ones who aren't the worst of us, but just are characters that I think a lot of times not even discarded, but wouldn't get the extra scene. It's a reason
Yeah.
why I think you have such interesting actors in your films always. Like there's a
Mm,
world in which, Laura Dern would read that script and go, well, there's nothing here. But because you do,
right.
there's like, oh, I see what we're building to. That's 100% a part I want to play. I remember I'm friendly
Yeah.
with Bruce Dern, and he was like, Laura's
Right.
going to do Star Wars. And I was like, oh, that exciting. You know what she's doing? No, I barely like it was just I was like, you're
She's
saying
I don't
what's
know. She's playing a bear in space or something. I don't even
oh,
know.
it's even better when you talk about Jurassic Park because it was like, oh,
I was lucky enough to meet Agnes Verda once, and I talked to her about Star Wars, and she was delightful, and she loved it, but she kept referring to Chewbacca as the space monkey.
yeah. You're like, I'm
It made me
in.
so happy.
What was it? The like Irvin Kershner, I think it was like the like Yoda was
The
like a
bear,
goblin,
yeah.
the little
Well, he
goblin.
said Kirsch's famous direction on set is the bear stands next to the spaceship.
Yep.
That was
Just like
his blocking.
you're like I know exactly what you mean, sir. I can make
Yeah,
that work. It's
exactly.
there's a joy I think in all of your films that I think also just comes from like adventure. Like okay, let's play,
Yeah,
let's see what happens. Like none of the movies go the way I think
yeah,
anyone expects them to in a good way. But that's also I think you like you're You're never
Yeah.
cheating the audience. Like the answers, like the
Yeah.
criticism of especially these two of like, oh well, the mystery is not that shocking. Like I don't think it's meant to
Yeah.
be. I think it's meant to make you feel scared
No.
too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I don't know. I guess for me, I like that you use the word play because that's what it comes down to
Yeah.
for me is I learned how to make movies by growing up making them with my friends, like in high school. And that was getting together on the weekend to hang out and have fun making movies. And that means you're not trying to construct something that fulfills a certain checks certain boxes of demographics. That means you're trying to entertain yourselves, and you're trying to surprise yourself. What the hell would it look like if we did this with the camera? Or
Right.
you're trying to constantly just kind of delight yourselves, and that combined with I don't know, trying to give the audience something that's truly satisfying, I
I mean,
guess, in the
everyone
deepest
on
part of
set
that word.
is yeah, everyone set is living their dream. Like there's no
Yeah,
reason anyone shouldn't be having a good time. And obviously it's
that's
not.
how I feel.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
and there are exceptions for one reason or another. Production doesn't go the way you want, or even just you can have a bad day. You can be exhausted. There's
Yeah.
something to that. Like you work with Daniel. Like he would never
Yeah.
pretend that he didn't want to make James Bond, but you don't also want to talk about it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that, but you can tell there's just something about doing this where it's like I want to dive
Yeah.
in. Like, oh, you forgot to pay me? Who cares? That's not true. Like,
That's not true.
exactly.
No, but we do have a lot of fun, and it's yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's the fact that we have fun on these movies, making them. I feel like the cast and I, we've talked about that a lot. I feel like it does though get to beyond just sort of the junket interview thing of we all loved each other and had fun. It does get to the root of something that I find really essential about making movies, which is um taking joy in the process of storytelling. And I think that more than us having parties together on set or liking each other, that basic element of having fun, which is genuinely having fun in the notion of creating this ride for the audience that maybe they haven't been on before. That to me is an absolutely necessary ingredient in terms of why I try and do this.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like I know if
Mm.
even if it was a lie, we'll just see when the next one comes out and it's set during Oscar season. It's like, uh oh.
That'd be pretty good. That'd be pretty
Yeah, that,
good.
that was actually my pitch when everyone was doing it.
I'll take
Thank
it.
you. Thank you so much for this. This is it's always a pleasure
Joe, it's great.
speaking. I love these things. So it's so much fun.
I
Oh,
appreciate it, man.
congrats, man. You deserve it.
Thanks, Joe. All right, man. Take
Always.
care. We'll talk
You
again
too.
soon. Bye.